Religions are complicated, and they contain a great deal of material. This is arguably one of the reasons why many people think they are man-made, and not of divine origin. But that isn't the point I want to make here. I've always thought that things should be simple, and I'm not the only one that has thought that. Because of the complexity and quantity of material, most people who teach religious ideas only teach a subset of their faith anyway. In addition, we all have to interpret those ideas as best as we can. This has often led to a divergence of ideas, and unfortunately, even more complexity. Nevertheless, I think there are core elements of most religions that are universal, and if we're sensible, we'll look to those aspects as our main sources of wisdom and guidance. Problems arise, though, when people do simplify things, by placing focus and emphasis on different aspects of religion. There is a concern about the growth of extremist views, for example, because these are the aspects of religion that are divisive and confrontational. I don't think any of the divisive elements are central, though, and they most likely come from the need of human beings to compete with each other in order to survive and succeed. Part of the reason religions are so complicated is that the holy books often contain three elements all combined into one. They have the core religious aspects, of course, but they also contain a great deal about the history of the people, and also the culture and society of the time. In order to simplify and understand religion, we need to understand this, and we need to think about how to separate out these different aspects. My view is that one way to simplify is to step back for a moment and ask the question, what are we, or God, trying to achieve with these books? I think the answer is surprisingly simple. The purpose was to help bring about civilization, to bring order and discipline to disordered and chaotic times. In this respect they were successful, and since then people have embraced the concept and developed it further, much further. Human beings have never been more civilized than they are today. I feel that the central elements of all religions, and of philosophy, science and humanism, actually pull us in the opposite direction from division and confrontation. The common ground is there to be found, but perhaps it just needs a little more illumination, so that everyone can find this common ground, instead of dwelling on the differences and using them as reasons to not get along. I want to talk more about the details now, and what I see as the core elements of each major faith. Judaism is a monotheistic religion. There is one God, and God is good, i.e. just and merciful. It follows that if God is good, we should try to be good people too. I would say that it's arguably no coincidence that science has identified a very similar idea. You might call it the one guiding principle of life, natural selection. But getting back to religion, Christianity adds one further element. God is not just good, God is love too. And therefore, if God is love, we should all try to love one another. Islam adds another element, namely discipline. To my mind, the 5 pillars are the core elements of Islam, and in addition to the core ideas of Judaism and Christianity, they are the primary teachings that Muslims should follow. The central observation from Buddhism is that suffering is a bad thing. I think most people would agree with that observation, so we try to do as much as we can about it. I won't say so much about Hinduism, as I know least about it, except to say that it doesn't really seem very different from Christianity, except perhaps that there are more gods. Going back to Judaism, there is one God, and then in Christianity, well, there is one God too, but it has 3 different aspects. And in Hinduism, there is one God with many aspects. In this respect, Hinduism makes more sense to me than the others. It seems to me there has been an attempt to match up the idea of one God with the practical observations of day-to-day life. Everyday life contains different aspects to it, and therefore perhaps God has different aspects too. This approach seems to be an attempt to know more about God through a closer appreciation and understanding of God's creation, and I don't think that's a bad thing.